What is going on, everyone? My name is Andy. Welcome back to another FPL video. It's team selection time for Game Week 37 plus. So as always, going to take you through how I'm doing in Game Week 36 plus, then look ahead to 37, look at transfers, captaincy, and all the usual stuff. Talk you through my team. Interestingly, I think the players that I'm looking to bring in are probably not the ones that I thought I'd be looking to bring in for the last two game weeks, especially when I'm trying to get those green arrows. But I'll try and go through my thought process as well. Before we do that, let's just talk about today's sponsor. So this video has kindly been sponsored by OneFootball once again. If you have not already checked them out, as I've said before, it's a completely free app. You might as well give it a go and see what you think. But it's great. Team news, lineup news, some stats in there as well. All the latest football news for the Premier League and otherwise. Obviously, from an FPL point of view, it's the Premier League stuff you want. So you get your push notifications as well. Every time a player scores a goal from the Premier League, you can switch that on, which is great if you had Jesus this week. Maybe not so much if you have Mo Salah. But going forward, really recommend it as a great football app to download. If you click the link in the description below, that will take you straight through to the download link. Give it a go. Like I said, it's completely free. See what you think and let me know. So just a quick look at Game Week 36 plus, because not many of my players have played at the moment, or at least only 5 out of 6 so far. And I'm on 20 points, but it's not the worst week to be having a bad week, because Sterling's blanked, De Bruyne and Mahrez have all blanked. De Bruyne didn't even come onto the pitch. Salah is blanked. Mane did score, but he's quite low owned. Pulisic was owned by quite a few players, at least in the top 10k, but he only got 6 points, which right now is looking quite big. But in the grand scheme of things, it's not a huge amount of points. So far, a good week to have a bad week. I'm quite happy that my captain did well, though. Jesus got another 8 points, so 16 altogether with captaincy, of course. And super unlucky not to have more points. There was 2 occasions when VAR looked at a penalty. Now, the second one I'm still not sure about. I know he stood on the defender, but there was no intent in that, and the defender was kind of in the way, but I can see why it wasn't given. Not really too many arguments about that. But the first one, where Lerma just wiped him out, how did VAR look at the second one and say no penalty, and look at the first one and also say no penalty? Absolute joke. Now, he might not have taken the penalty, but you'd hope that Gundogan or whoever would have taken it would have converted, and then Jesus would have had an assist as well, which would have been a really nice score this week. But 8 points, still happy enough with that. Kevin De Bruyne didn't play. Now, this is quite funny because I had Saiss coming off the bench, which up until about, 92, 93 minutes, whenever that goal went in, that penalty from Chris Wood, I was quite happy about, and I checked my rank. And funnily enough, when Chris Wood scored, even though I was getting Saiss off the bench for 2 points instead of 6 or 7, my overall rank actually jumped up when I checked on livefpl.net, because so many people must have had double Wolves defenders or had Bolly, who was on for 3 bonus points at the time. So it was actually a good thing for my overall rank, weirdly enough. Not for mini leagues necessarily, but for overall rank, it was actually kind of a good thing that Saiss lost that clean sheet, which is a weird thing to say, I know. So he's going to come on for Kevin De Bruyne, which is how I've got 20 points. So Mahrez came on for 1. Taylor went off. I mean, Burnley didn't get the clean sheet in the end, which I'm very glad about. But Taylor went off injured, which was hugely frustrating. And Trent Alexander-Arnold, I know a lot of people are saying to sell him. I'll talk about whether I'm going to do that in a minute. But another low score, 0 points this time. And I don't know what to make of Liverpool right now. They had so many chances last night, but from a defensive point of view, it was 2 mistakes. Will we see Van Dijk make another mistake in the next year? Probably not, but last night he and Alisson both 2 mistakes, which led to the 2 Arsenal goals. So that loss plus Trent got a yellow card. A really low score. I'm kind of hopeful that I'm not necessarily going to turn that red arrow I've got currently into a massive green arrow. I was on 161k before this game week, but I think I can at least break even. I've still got Martial to come, still got Fernandes, although his effective ownership is over 100%. So any points are only going to give me a very small green arrow or a very slight red one. Maguire as well, Antonio tomorrow, and then Danny Ings and McCarthy today as well, playing Brighton at home. So I'm still hopeful of some good points, but I do think it's going to be quite a low scoring week. I'm not expecting a huge score or a huge green arrow, but hopefully we can get them in Game Week 37 and 38. Let's talk about 37 now. So Game Week 37, 2 free transfers. I only used 1 last week, which I forgot to mention in the review, which was Jimenez to Danny Ings. Now, Jimenez has scored and got bonus points, so a little bit frustrating, but I'm hoping Danny Ings can at least match him. So I've still got 2 free transfers because that was the only one I did. I avoided going for Pulisic, which I guess sort of looks like a mistake when Mahrez has only come on for 1, but happy to keep Mahrez for the rest of the season, I think. 101.7 million squad value, 2.8 million in the bank, so plenty of flexibility this week. Am I making any changes to my defence? You know I'm not making changes to my defence. Let's start with Trent Alexander-Arnold. So Liverpool have dropped, I think I saw a stat yesterday, it said they've dropped more points in the last 5 games than they did in all the previous games in the Premier League. So I don't think it's a fact that they don't care or they're rotating too much. I mean, their team against Arsenal was full strength, pretty much. I mean, the midfield 3 does often get changed at times. And obviously, it is missing Jordan Henderson, which is a little bit of a problem. But I think they had like over 20 attempts at goal last night, and Arsenal had like 2 or 3. So on another day, Liverpool win that match. Mo Salah, Mane score a few more goals, and everyone that owns Liverpool players is happy. But it didn't happen last night. So Trent, people are telling me you should get rid of Trent. Now, as I always say, like, it's very easy to look at someone else's team and say this player, this player, this player, this player need to go. But be realistic. If you've got to this point now with Trent Alexander-Arnold, is he, with Chelsea at home and Newcastle away? Now, Chelsea at home is an interesting match because they did okay against Norwich, but it was Norwich. Liverpool on their day, I think, would destroy Chelsea. But the way they're playing, I'm not sure how that match is going to go. On the other hand, Newcastle are really bad right now. They've got the worst defensive record since we started again, which is interesting because before we said they had a pretty good defensive record, but that seems to have changed since restart. They're a bit more of an attacking team. And if they do that against Liverpool, that's going to end in tears, and not for Liverpool, I'll say that. So I'm not sure about the 2 games, but when you look at my full team, you can't look at it and say that Trent is the priority to get rid of. Would I keep him if I had a wild card? I don't know, probably. But I would at least consider getting rid of him. Without a wild card, though, there's no way I'm getting rid of Trent before Chelsea at home and Newcastle away when there's other transfers I could make. And again, you always see that when you put your team out there on like Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. You should get rid of this player. Why have you got this one player? Because people aren't thinking of the general strategy or other transfers you might have in mind. So for me, I see why people are getting frustrated with Trent Alexander-Arnold. He is still one of the best players in FPL. Has that changed overnight? No. Are Liverpool making a few more mistakes? Yes. Are they going to miss Jordan Henderson? Yes. Are they going to keep a clean sheet in the next 2? I could see 1 at least. And maybe he gets some attacking returns as well. So I'm still hopeful of getting points off him, and I'm definitely keeping. Goalkeeper's McCarthy. There's no way I'm playing Ben Foster. He's playing Man City. If Man City get a penalty and Ben Foster saves it, I will go nuts. And I still haven't seen whether he's going to keep a clean sheet in 36+. And he's playing Antonio, so I'll go nuts if he keeps his first clean sheet since restart against him as well. But definitely playing McCarthy. What I will say, Bournemouth looked quite good against Man City. Now, Man City didn't have Mahrez, Sterling or De Bruyne on from the start. And to be fair, that penalty I mentioned already would have changed the game a little bit as well. But Bournemouth were very good. They beat Man City when it comes to expected goals. Now, you can say it doesn't matter. It's all about the results on the pitch, which is fair enough. But another day, they might have nicked another goal or 2 and kind of drawn that game or even won it. So Bournemouth did very well. So I'm not sure about a clean sheet for McCarthy, but I'm certainly playing him over Foster. When it comes to the other defenders, look, Wolves losing a clean sheet at the death, again, is hugely frustrating, but they have been so good defensively since restart. And ever since Bolly was in the team, to be fair, I'm going to keep Saiss. I mean, Doherty didn't even start last night. Ironically, he did get an assist, and I think he outscored all the other defenders because they all lost a clean sheet and he got an assist. But Saiss has been such good value, I have to play him. Charlie Taylor has Norwich away, but it looks like he's going to miss that game. And I'm not sure about playing Egan this week. I think he's playing against Everton. But I just think Saiss against Crystal Palace is the one to play at home. And hopefully he can finally get a goal. And then Harry Maguire, exactly the same thing. Look, I could still make that switch to Greenwood. We've seen that Greenwood's maybe got a knock and going to miss the Crystal Palace game in Game Week 36. Maybe. That might help him. He might get a rest in the FA Cup as well and then play the last 2 games. But I'm just not going to make that switch now. I think there's other things that I want to do, and that doesn't involve getting rid of Harry Maguire with 3 pretty good fixtures or 2 fixtures left till the end of the season. So West Ham at home, I think it's Leicester away. So Leicester away could be tricky, but I don't know, that game could be tight because we don't know what's going to be on the line. It could be, the match to get a top 4 slot. So we'll have to see how kind of the West Ham, the Crystal Palace games go first for Man United. But that's going to be interesting. But West Ham at home, got to play them. I mean, Antonio's in a great bit of form right now. And I'm not completely oblivious to the fact that he could cause our defence problems, just like Danny Ings and co did for Southampton. But West Ham at home, I've got to play Maguire. Still hopeful for that goal. I'm telling you, he is due a goal. You better get one in the last 3 weeks. Harry Maguire stays for sure. Okay, let's talk about the midfield. And it gets very interesting from here for a few different reasons. One of which is FA Cup. So I'm sure most of you know by now, but at Game Week 37, we're going to have to make our decisions by the deadline, which is 4:30 on Saturday. Weird deadline time, but that's what it is. And then Manchester City, Manchester United, Arsenal and Chelsea are all going to play their FA Cup games before they play their Game Week 37 games. So we're not going to be able to see how minutes are managed, whether there's any injuries or stuff like that. We're just going to have to decide before Game Week 37. So my thinking with Man United players is I'm not really worried because I expect them to field a pretty, normal 11 that they have done for the last 5 games in the FA Cup. There'll be some changes, I'm sure. There might be some against Palace as well. But ultimately, Martial, Fernandes, Rashford, Pogba are probably going to start in the FA Cup and then again against West Ham at home. So I'm not too worried about them. Now, some people will say, don't put your captain on them in case there's an injury or something, in case they play extra time. I still think they're going to start whether they play extra time or not. The injury thing is interesting, but the only thing I would say is you'd be very unlucky for them to get an injury which stops them starting, puts them on the bench, and then they come on. You'd think if they get an injury, they would just miss out the next game. So maybe putting your captain on someone like Martial or Fernandes, and then your vice-captain maybe on, whoever. So if you really want to be safe, someone that doesn't have an FA Cup game. But I'm not too concerned about them. I think Martial's looked really good. I think since restart, he's only 2 points behind Fernandes, which you wouldn't have expected. But obviously, he's had those big hauls in the last game, scored a goal, got an assist, and obviously had 21 points as well against Sheffield United. So currently, he's my captain. Now, I don't think that he's suddenly a much better captain than Fernandes, but I do think on his day, as we've seen, he can outscore Fernandes, and he will be the more differential captain. So that's currently where my money is. I still think Man City is good against Watford if you can nail the right player. But who is going to start? Who's going to play big minutes in the Arsenal game? Who's going to get a rest against Watford? We just don't know. So I'm kind of just happy owning them. Antonio, I'm not sure about him. I really need to see how he does against Watford. But he's been doing really well even before that Norwich game. And I've got a bad feeling he could cause our defence some problems. So I know what I'm going to do, which is probably get rid of him or bench him, and he probably will get some points. If I had him, I do have him. If I had him and I wasn't maybe a Man United fan, I probably would just play him. I think he could do well against Man United. But because of the fixture and how well Man United generally do defensively, even though they haven't done in the last couple of games, I'd probably look to bench him. Now, this is where I'm going to talk about my transfer plans. I have 2 free transfers. I'm not sure if I'm going to use them both this week. One of them could be Antonio out for a punt for this week. So either Trossard, who plays for Brighton, playing against Newcastle. Newcastle have the worst defensive record since the restart in terms of expected goals conceded, at least before Game Week 36. Or McNeil, because they're playing Norwich. Now, I'm not sure if I'm going to do that, but that's kind of an idea that I could do. Because I've got 2 free transfers and not much I want to do with them, I could do that, and in the final week, use one of the free transfers to bring in Foden or David Silva. Now, right now, I don't want to bring them in because I'm not sure how many minutes they're going to play in the FA Cup or against Watford. But by Game Week 38, before that deadline, I will know what they've played and have a good idea of who's going to start in Game Week 38. Now, trying to guess Pep Roulette is obviously difficult, and I might get it wrong. But as we saw, most of us thought that Foden and David Silva would start last night against Bournemouth, and that's exactly what they did. So that's my kind of plan. Antonio out, potentially, or bench, which I'll talk about in a minute why I might bench him. But if I get rid of him, Trossard against Newcastle or McNeil against Norwich is currently where I'm looking. Now, I could obviously straight away maybe look to punt on the Man City player, but I'd have to get rid of another one, which I'll talk about in a sec. So, Kevin De Bruyne, not really a massive issue in my team, and not really looking to 100% get rid of him, but I have considered bringing Mo Salah back in. Now, when I took him out, it looked really stupid because he got 18 points, and since then he's blanked. But for me, it feels a little bit like when Jesus blanked against Southampton. Everyone was saying he's a bad finisher, he's just not very good, he's not going to get points. And since then, he's scored in the next 3 games because he was getting chances and he was just unlucky not to score. And I think Mo Salah's been the same. The last 2 games, he has blanked, but he's had so many chances. Since the restart, Harry Kane has had 8 big chances, and so has Salah. Only Antonio has more. I would say there's more points coming for Salah. Chelsea at home, that's not a bad defence to play against. And Newcastle, like I've just said, one of the worst defences so far in the league since restart, is also not a bad defence to play against. And they created so many chances against Arsenal that I think he could be a good pick. Now, the one thing I like about him over Kevin De Bruyne is he gets a big break. So it's 7 days between when he just played Arsenal, when he plays Chelsea, and then it's another 4 days till Newcastle. So 2 games in 11 days. Whereas Kevin De Bruyne, granted, he came off after 60-ish minutes in the last game, didn't play last night as well. So he has quite a bit of a rest. But will he get loads of minutes against Watford? I'm not sure. Then it's Norwich at home, which is great. But the thing is, and this is where I hope you're keeping track, if I get Salah in for Kevin De Bruyne, that frees up a Man City slot, which is how I get David Silva or Foden in for that Antonio slot. So I am genuinely thinking about bringing Salah in. I don't know whether to do it this week or next week. I could just do maybe the one Antonio transfer this week, roll the other one, and then do Salah and the Man City million next week. Or I just get Salah in this week for 2 games where I think he'll play 80 to 90 minutes, still hungry for goals, is still in a team that are creating loads of chances. Yes, they've not got the results. Yes, he's not got the points over the last 2, but I think they're coming. But let me add in the forwards, and then we'll talk more about maybe a different transfer that I could do. So Jesus and Ings up front. Now Ings, I just bought in for Jimenez. I've not seen him play yet, but I'm not too worried about him. I think he's going to be hungry for goals, obviously chasing that golden boot for Southampton, and they've been looking really good as well. So hopefully they get something against Brighton in 36. Hopefully he gets something against Bournemouth. Yes, I took out Jimenez, but I'm not too concerned about that. Jesus, I'm pretty sure I'm going to keep. I've seen some people thinking about maybe getting rid of him because he might not play against Watford. There's loads of talk still about false 9 this, false 9 that, and yet he started the last 5 games, I think, now. So the ideal thing from an FPL perspective would be them to actually play a false 9 against Arsenal and give him a rest, but I don't think that's likely to happen. But his minutes have been managed quite well. He's hardly played 90 minutes at all since the restart. So is there a chance he gets 60 minutes against Watford and 60 against Norwich? Potentially. That'd be 120 minutes. Worst case scenario, he's going to get 60 in one and 30, I would say, in the other. So a full 90 minutes over the next 2 fixtures. So Watford away and Norwich at home is definitely worth keeping. I'm not looking to get rid of him. Now, the other thing I can do, and I hope, again, I'm not rambling on too much and it's easy enough to follow, is I have got these 2 free transfers, and really there's not a huge amount I want to do with them unless I get Salah in. I can do Kevin De Bruyne straight to Mo Salah, and like I said, I still might take a punt on doing Antonio to Trossard or McNeil and then swapping them to a Man City mid for my final transfer, probably David Silva to be completely honest. Or, if I don't go for Mo Salah, I can just bench Antonio and I can do Nketiah to Chris Wood. Now, Burnley's not really the kind of team you're probably looking to target this stage of the season, but they do play a really poor Norwich team up next. And Chris Wood's underlying stats are usually very good. There's not many players this season that have had more big chances than him. So I quite like him. He's back from injury now. He's played the last 2 games. His expected goals over the last 4 are even slightly better than Jay Rodriguez, who's played way more minutes. So I think it's about 100 minutes more over 4 games. So I really like Chris Wood. The only thing with that is once I do that, I've then got money locked into 8 attackers, and that doesn't give me much flexibility for Game Week 38. Now, I could just keep Kevin De Bruyne for Norwich, of course, and Antonio would have Aston Villa at home. So it's not the worst idea at all, but I just think there's a small part of me that wants to captain Salah against Newcastle. Now, most people are going to go for Man City against Norwich. Not a bad idea at all for obvious reasons. Man City are great, Norwich are not. But at this point, it's getting to the stage where Salah's ownership is dropping a little bit and his captaincy is definitely dropping. And actually, I wouldn't be surprised, at least in the top 10k, if more people captain a Man City player against Norwich than Salah against Newcastle. And again, for obvious reasons, but given the amount of chances Salah is having and how bad Newcastle have been defensively, that could be a big score for Salah. And if it pays off ahead of a Man City player, that's likely to propel me further up the rankings. And I had a similar situation last year where I was going for a top 10k spot. I went for the safe Sterling pick instead of Mane, who was less owned. And in the end, that decision basically cost me a top 10,000 place. I didn't finish in the top 10k on that last day because I went for the safer pick rather than the less owned one. So when I think about it, will Salah captain against Newcastle massively punish me not going for a Man City player? Probably not. But could it really help me if he bangs and the other ones get their minutes managed and somehow Norwich manage to keep Man City out, which I know is unlikely, then that could really propel me up the rankings. So that's what I'm thinking. My probable transfer this week, I think, will be Wood in for Nketiah and bench Antonio. More likely, I go for McNeil and Trossard. And I'm actually siding towards Trossard a little bit more if I think he's going to start. And then either roll the free transfer and get in my Man City mid, David Silva and Salah in the last week, or just get Salah this week and David Silva next week. But that's pretty much my transfer plans. That could change. Maybe a Man City player, Man United player gets injured over the next FA Cup or Game Week 37. Who knows what could happen? But that's what I'm thinking with my transfers. Let me know what you think in the comments below. And captain will almost certainly be Martial, even if I bring Salah in. So that's it for this one. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to give it a like. Subscribe if you're new around here as well. If you want to watch another video, there's plenty more to the right as well. And if you want to support me on Patreon, we really appreciate it. The link is in the description below. Go and follow me on Instagram and Twitter. I'm posting a lot more on Instagram now and going live on there additionally as well. So all the links are in the description below. Otherwise, I'll catch you next time. Cheers all.